everyone. I'm Tammy McBride. Welcome to the Virtual STEM Showcase Education Connection Highlight. As you may know, over the last couple of weeks, we've took the opportunity to interview people from the educational and professional sectors around our region that directly connect to STEM and give you ideas for your projects. And today we have a bonus education connection highlight. I have Christine Olson, who is a fifth grade teacher in Tonasket Elementary School. Hi, Christine. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Tammy.
I have some questions to ask you, so let's get started. I know that the last 2 years you have been involved with sending some of your fifth grade class to a day called STEAM in the Field. Can you tell me a little bit about what that is and the experiences that your students had?
Sure. Yeah, a couple years ago, Lisa Monahan approached me with an idea about, and it was in the middle of COVID, and I thought, how's this going to work? But trying to get some funding for kids to actually get outside and experience STEAM, all the different aspects in the field. And that's something I've really been interested in with my students because it is what motivates them. Most of the students that live around here, already have experience in nature. They walk through their environment all the time, but they don't really know how to focus in on it. And they don't really know what to look for in that environment. And so it was really a great opportunity for the students to go somewhere fairly close, about 45 minutes away. And I don't believe any of them have been there before, but they've been in the area, and to look at that place with new eyes and to come back with new learning. So it was really exciting.
Wonderful. Just a quick question for some of those that might not know what STEAM is versus STEM. Can you explain that really quick?
Oh boy. Okay, so STEAM is science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. And so, as a students, we went to Scotch Creek Wildlife Area and had an introduction there. And after the introduction, the students had a chance to go to different stations, and they covered different aspects, those aspects in that setting. So the purpose of Scotch Creek Wildlife Area is to protect sharp-tailed grouse and enhance the habitat for them specifically. And so they learned some of the science of the ecosystem and the birds and what they need. And there were some great pre-activities also that we did before we went out there. And then as they went to the different stations, for example, one of them was measuring stream volume flow before and after a beaver dam analog, and actually then putting it on a graph. And I couldn't believe it. I was just so excited because they were using the math that we had been working on this year, working with decimals and graphing, and they were able to apply that and understand what they were doing. Art was a fantastic watercolor experience that the kids, really it helped them look with new eyes at their environment, and they felt really proud of what they were able to do. The engineering part was fantastic because they had to try to come up with their own way, given certain materials and constraints, their own way to slow down water flow and to measure that and test their designs and then check them out again. And so, and then of course at the end, my students had a chance to plant trees, so directly enhancing the habitat. They had a chance to identify using a classification key native plants. And then one thing they just really loved that was new this year was they actually had a beaver dam analog on the ground, the posts that they would use to put in the stream, but it was on the ground, and the kids were able to weave pine boughs or fir boughs in between, and to really kind of problem solve and see how those analogs were put together. And they absolutely loved that, and trying to figure out how to hold it all together so it didn't lean one way or the other. And I think it gave them better understanding of what that part of it was all about. So.
Awesome. That's so cool. So I know that you just highlighted on some of those stations, but what was some of the careers that the students were exposed to?
So anywhere from, it was raining, I'll say that. And so it was a little bit tough to get for the kids to really have a lot of chance to visit careers. Last year, they had a little bit more opportunity, but it was great because they had a chance to see people who manage wildlife areas. They had a chance to see people who are field work scientists who go around and test things and measure things. They had a chance to visit with somebody who does some of the harder labor of just putting everything together. And then somebody from the conservation district was there. So they talked about a little bit about the education. They talked a little bit about the education that they needed. They talked a little bit about how they got into their job to begin with. They were able to talk about natural resource jobs in our community that might be available for kids in the future. So the kids were able to really be interested and connect with that.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, what were some of the takeaways from some of the students after this experience? It sounded like a great day.
Yeah. I think they'd never heard of sharp-tailed grouse before that. And, the kids that I have worked with both last year and this year just really are naturally very interested in animals, in habitat, in protecting animals and enhancing the habitat or any way that they can help them. So, that was kind of a natural outcome. But to know about a specific bird, to understand, I think what they didn't understand before was, it's more than just, well, we don't hunt those birds anymore. It's actually how can we enhance the habitat? What are we doing in our area to protect this one species? And how is that species related to so many other species and so many other things in our world? And so as we've been working with ecosystems and energy flow and all of that this year, they really had a chance to, see that and to understand how everything fit together.
Yeah, that's really cool. What a great experience. So I did hear that some of the students got swag. I think it was like some backpacks full of things, which also included native seeds that were harvested in the wildlife areas in Okanagan County. Were the kids excited about some of those gifts, and
Yeah.
how are they taking advantage of some of those that they
Well,
got?
they were absolutely excited about the gifts, and I guess the two things that they have talked about. They have talked about the seeds, and it's just been the first week of warm weather. But they are. Overheard several kids talking about. They've got a special spot where they're going to put those seeds and watch them to see if they germinate and them. So they've been doing some thinking about that, and I know they're getting ready, if they haven't already, to get those in the ground right away. The other thing that they really liked was their little insect collection jars, and so they have continued to bring those into the classroom, full of all kinds of things for us to look at and observe from their own yards and their own environment. So that's encouraging to me too, because not only did they collect insects when they were out there in the field, but they also are now looking in their own environment. And so
Yeah.
that's a great carryover.
Cool. That's wonderful. I was going to ask, yeah, if they had planted already. So I'm sure probably once we get a little bit nicer weather, they'll be doing so. So, what was a part of your curriculum in preparation for the STEAM Day to get your students ready?
Well, Lisa and Carrie Haug had both prepared some amazing materials for us to use ahead of time. And one of the things that we used just shortly before the field trip was a fantastic slideshow about the sharp-tailed grouse and some of its background, some of its cultural connections. And then at the end of that, they had some fantastic graphs for us to look at that showed the decline of the population. And then we looked at other maps and graphs that might show some correlation between their decline and other things happening in our ecosystem. So wildfire was one of the things, among other things. And average temperature in summer and winter. So that slideshow was really good to capture kids' attention. They had a chance to focus on the bird itself and think about the bigger questions. And then they also provided us with some ecosystem cards. that had producers, consumers, decomposers. And we just, before we went, I asked my students to do a kind of an open sort and what did they notice and how did they group them, and we talked through them. And then when we returned after the field trip, I had them do a sort again, and then actually create a realistic food web from the ecosystem that's in our area that included the sharp-tailed grouse, so that they were able to make those connections.
Awesome. Um, and so my last question that I have for you today is, what are some of the benefits that you see these experiences provide for your students as it relates to STEM and STEAM?
I think besides the connection that I've spoken before about, just focusing in a little bit more on their environment and understanding it more, it really, it's it kids understand maybe for the first time what science really is, that it has actual applications, that there are people in our community whose this is their job, that all of the things they're learning about make sense when it's in as a setting like that, and when they're trying to work out problems related to that, particular setting or that particular animal. And so, it's real science, and they are proud of what they do. And like I said, they understand it. I don't have to tell them what STEAM stands for, because they get it.
Yeah, that's what a fabulous experience for them. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
sharing today.
thank you.
Well, I think that is it for our final episode of the Connection Highlight series. Don't forget, if you are a community partner listening in on these Connection Highlight series, voting is open until Friday, May 13th is when it closes. So don't forget to vote for your favorite projects. Thank you so much, Christine, for answering some questions today and taking your time. And again, thank you all for listening in, and I hope you have a wonderful day.